Hello and welcome back to the Literary Lair. I know it's been a while, but I'm ready to get back to the grind. We're going to skip over Old Doc for now so I can get to a book I've wanted to tackle since my first year of doing this show. This week is The Hobbit, the first in the Lord of the Rings series and my favorite fantasy book of all time. Let's take an unexpected journey and see what desolation was wrought by Smaug so we can go here and back again. There we go, all three movies referenced. Let's do it. The cover is pretty awesome. Like I always do, this is the cover of the edition I read. It has Gandalf approaching Bilbo's Hobbit hole, which is the first scene of the book. And it's a great image to entice the reader to read it. Why is that wizard walking with the short guy? I'm going to read it to find out. Our story begins with Bilbo Baggins, a hobbit and our protagonist, who is smoking on his porch in Bag End. Suddenly, Gandalf the wizard visits him. After a lengthy discussion during which Bilbo uses the phrase "good morning" several times, like I do in my morning conversations, Bilbo finds himself flustered because Gandalf makes conversation awkward with his logic and wizard words, invites Gandalf to tea, and goes back inside his hobbit hole with the final "good morning." Gandalf carves a secret mark on Bilbo's front door, which translated means "burglar wants good job." Plenty of excitement and reasonable reward. Soon after, 13 dwarves show up and begin rudely discussing their planned treasure hunt while the hapless Bilbo provides the obligatory hospitality. They destroy his house and begin to eat all his food. After the dwarves and Bilbo clean up the mess, a map is produced, and Gandalf arranges for Bilbo to get the job, as well as to break the unlucky number 13, which is superstitious because of Friday the 13th. No idea why people freak out so much because a guy in a hockey mask murdered a bunch of people. The quest is to utilize a secret door to get into the Lonely Mountain, send forth their burglar to steal as much of the riches as possible, and give a recon report. Then have everyone kill Smaug and profit. Pretty simple plan. The next morning, after oversleeping and nearly missing the start of the journey, to which I can relate. One day I was supposed to go to school to pick up my schedule, but I overslept and ended up running way late, and actually running to school. Much like Bilbo was running to hang out with a wizard. Wish I was doing that. Anyway, Bilbo goes off with the dwarves. They're nearly eaten by 3 trolls, but Gandalf manages to trick them into staying up all night, whereupon they're turned to stone by the first light of dawn and die. Okay, Gandalf, I know they were evil and all, and they were going to eat everyone, but that's a bit overkill, don't you think? In the troll's cave, they find the troll's storage of supplies, including several weapons. Bilbo acquires an elvish short sword, which he will later name Sting, which glows blue in the presence of goblins, and plaid in the presence of Linkara. The party travels to Rivendell, where they enjoy the hospitality of the elves. There, Elrond finds moon runes on the company's map of the mountain, giving information about a secret door on its side. They then proceed toward the Misty Mountains. Who's playing that? I have no idea where that came from. Anyway, they get captured by the goblins and carried under the mountain. They run away, and during the escape, Bilbo loses the dwarves, and Beaufort finally has a reason to scream about losing Bilbo. Alone in the dark, after running away from the goblins, Bilbo finds a gold ring on the floor of a cave passage and puts it in his pocket. Little does he know that this was the one ring lost by Sauron centuries ago. And if he brings it to a pawn shop, he could probably get, like, a ton of gold. But the guy at the pawn shop would probably need to call his friend, who's an expert in the one rings lost by Sauron centuries ago. Continuing down a tunnel, he finds himself at the shore of an underground lake. Gollum quietly paddles up in his boat, and the two enact the riddle game, under the condition that if Bilbo wins, Gollum will show him the way out, and if Bilbo loses, Gollum will eat him. Seems like a fair trade to me. After several riddles, which each manages to answer, Bilbo, whilst fiddling in his pocket, unable to think of a riddle, asks himself aloud, "What have I got in my pocket?" Gollum thinks this is the riddle, and it doesn't comply with the rules of the game, demands 3 guesses. In the end, he fails to guess the answer, although that's weird for Gollum because you'd think, "My precious," would be his first guess. Bilbo demands his reward, but Gollum refuses and paddles off in his boat to an island in the lake, whereupon he lives. After searching around for a while, asking aloud, "Where is it? Where is my precious?" To which Bilbo replies, "I don't know, and I don't care. I just want to get out of here." Have I told you that Martin Freeman was the best choice for casting as Bilbo? That's exactly in character as every other character he's played, including Arthur Dent and John Watson. Gollum becomes suspicious, gets in his boat, and starts paddling back across the lake toward Bilbo. Bilbo realizes his life is in danger and escapes down the maze of pitch-black tunnels, as Gollum gives chase. To which a Scooby-Doo-esque montage will ensue? No? Well, if I directed the movie, that's what would have happened. Bilbo trips and finds the ring on his finger. Realizing he has no chance to escape his pursuer, stays where he is and prepares to meet his fate. But Gollum runs right over him. Bilbo realizes the ring makes him invisible. He manages to escape past Gollum, who has gone to guard the only exit, and finds himself on the surface where he rejoins the dwarves. Descending from the misty mountains, they survive an encounter with wargs and goblins climbing trees. Eagles, summoned by Gandalf, then come to rescue them, which they should have used to get into Mordor, but if I start debating that, we'll be here all day. And I know you guys like it better when the review is less than an hour long. They rest and then depart. Gandalf soon leaves on an errand, like he always does. The party traverses the great forest of Mirkwood, eventually running out of supplies. Gandalf had warned them not to leave the path, but they saw fire and heard singing, and they were hopeless, so they leave the path to beg food from wood elves, only to get lost. We should have listened to Gandalf. "We're taking a shortcut. We'll be there in 20 minutes, tops." Oh, come on, you always say that. They are captured by giant spiders, but Bilbo rescues the dwarves by becoming invisible and killing the spiders with his sword and some rocks. But when I did that in the Safari Zone, I get kicked out. Figures, right? Elves then capture the dwarves and imprison them, because the elves have nothing better to do than capture hobbits. Their new stop and frisk procedures are very controversial. But Bilbo manages to sneak into the Elven King Thranduil's palace unnoticed using the ring. He then helps the dwarves escape in barrels floating down the river. He was lucky that Thranduil didn't catch him, because if he touches you, you die. After staying for a short period at Lake Town, the treasure seekers proceed to the Lonely Mountain. Finding themselves unable to locate the secret door, the company sits down, depressed that their quest after coming so far has an anticlimactic ending. Hearing a bird knocking on a stone, Bilbo looks up just in time to see the last ray of the sun of Durin's day, which is only slightly better than Data's day, shining on the cliff wall to magically reveal the door. Bilbo is sent down to meet Smaug. The dragon, realizing the company received help from Lake Town, sets out to destroy it. Because that makes sense. Not destroying the company that came to steal your shit. Destroy the town that helped them. However, the bird that had been knocking on the stone was no ordinary bird.
Oh my gosh! Oh, that's a majestic blue-backed robin! Wow! Oh.
But a bird of an ancient race, whom the men of the lake could communicate with, and it heard Bilbo's report to the dwarves that Smaug had had a bare patch on his armor in the left side of his chest, near his heart, that could be used to slaughter him, if only you could get close enough. And the odds are no one usually got close enough to it to kill it, as it conveyed the message to one Bard the Bowman, who is only slightly better than Spoony the Bard, who then, upon seeing the bare patch on the chest of Smaug, dispatches the dragon with a single arrow, thus allowing the party of dwarves to take possession of the treasure, and Bilbo returns to Hobbiton to live a happy life until Fellowship of the Ring. Or not. The citizens of Lake Town arrive to make historical claims and demand compensation for the help that they rendered, as well as reparations for the damage Smaug inflicted during his attacks. Which makes sense. They're joined by the elves, who also demand a share based on historical claims. The dwarves refuse all negotiations and in turn summon King from the mountain to strengthen their position. Seeing no other way to avert war, Bilbo uses the ring to steal the prized Arkenstone from the dwarves, which he uses to broker peace. Just as a grudging truce is agreed to, the three armies of the Lonely Mountain, elves, men, and dwarves, are attacked by the goblins and wargs from the Misty Mountains. A bitter battle ensues, named the Battle of the Five Armies. Although they suffer heavy losses, elves, men, and dwarves prevail with the help of the Eagles, because they played their hit song Hotel California to motivate the troops. Ha! Beckshrew thought I was going to make a Journey of the Sorcerer reference. The three groups then split the treasure because fighting alongside in battle helped to settle their differences, for now. Bilbo refuses most of the riches and realizing he has no way to bring them back home, but he nevertheless takes enough to make him a wealthy hobbit and lives happily ever after, unaware of the dangerous nature of the ring. And that was The Hobbit. While certainly not long enough to dedicate 3 movies to, it's still a great story, and it's easy to see why Tolkien wanted to write more stories set in Middle-earth. And things are going to start changing. I'm going to start giving scores. For this one, it gets a score of must-read. Fantasy isn't for everyone, but Tolkien is a genius, and you're a fool if you don't want to read it because you don't like fantasy in general. And now, straight out of Vulcan, enjoy the musical stylings of a Mr. Leonard Nimoy. Oh, are you still here? Oh, right. Give me a minute. Right. You're probably wondering about the new outfit, right? Yeah. Well, you see, I realized the show should be a bit more professional, so I decided that I was going to up the ante with the show, and I figured I'd have a more formal outfit. Same vest, same hat, I added a bow tie and a nice shirt. Might add a jacket to it later on. So, that's the new outfit, and I hope you guys like it. And the show's not going to be weekly anymore. I apologize for that. It's going to go under the when the next video is finished. I will try to get it done every week, but it might not be as feasible due to school getting in the way. So, that's about it. That's pretty much all my updates. See you next time.